We're going to jump into worship here. This song is by Corey Asbury, which you will probably hear at Sunfest if you're going. So here we go. Sometimes on this journey, I get lost in my mistakes. What looks to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. And my story isn't over, my story's just begun. Failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Your failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcomed anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Arrival's not the end game, the journey's where you are. You never wanted perfect, you just wanted my heart. And the story isn't over if the story isn't good. Failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Your failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Yeah! Lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Prodigals come home, the helpless find hope. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Prison doors fling wide, the dead come to life. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Miracles take place, the cynical find faith. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Jericho walls are quaking, strongholds now are shaking. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Oh, love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Yeah! Lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Who breaks the power of sin and darkness, whose love is mighty and so much stronger. The King of glory, the King above all kings, who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder and leaves us breathless in awe and wonder. the King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross, you would lay down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos back into order, who makes the orphan a son and daughter, the King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance, the King of glory, the King above all kings. Yeah, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross, you would lay down your life, that I would be set free. Whoa, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy, worthy, worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross, you would lay down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. And he is jealous for me. I am a hurricane, I am a tree, bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. When all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. And oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. And he is jealous for me. Love love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. When all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. And we are his portion and he is our prize, drawn to redemption by the grace in his eyes. If grace is an ocean, we're all sinking. So heaven meets earth like an unforeseen kiss, and my heart turns violently inside of my chest. I don't have time to maintain these regrets when I think about the way that he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Dear Jesus, be with us tonight. Be with Andrew as he brings forth the message. Lord, just be able to open our hearts and open our minds to what he has to say tonight, and then to live it out through this upcoming week, Lord. In your name I pray. Amen.
Check, 1, 2. All right, there we go. How you guys doing tonight? Got one person that's good. Everyone else awake? Hello? Wow. You guys are really awake tonight. All right. Well, I'm excited to be up here with you guys because I have a really important question to ask you guys. What is your favorite restaurant? Go anywhere in the world. Where are you going? Anyone? Cane's? Chipotle? Those are some good options. What'd you say? Beatty's? I don't know where that is. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else got favorite restaurants? Hand in the back. What'd you say? Taco Bell. There it is. Oh, McDonald's. This is gross. Ugh. Oh, man. I got a Taco Bell gift card in my wallet right now. I can't wait to use that. All right. Now that I've heard some of you guys' favorite restaurants, I need you guys to close your eyes. Everyone close your eyes. All right. Now that your eyes are closed, I want you to imagine you are going on a road trip, right? You're driving to wherever you want to drive, and you're getting pretty hungry, right? It's lunch, dinner time. You're getting pretty hungry. And you pull out your Google Maps to find what kind of food options you have available. And you see that your favorite restaurant is on the map, but it's a little out of the way, and you're going to have to wait. So you're going to have to sit there and be hungry for a little bit. Or there's another restaurant that's on the way that serves the same thing as your favorite restaurant, but it's mediocre compared to your favorite restaurant. It's just not as good. But it's on the way, and you can stop and eat now. All right, you can open your eyes, right? This is another red pill, blue pill choice, right? Because our series is called The Matrix. All right, you can eat now and satisfy your hunger, or you can hold out and get your favorite restaurant. What choice are you going to make? I have a feeling most of us would rather hold out and go get our favorite restaurant, right? Merrick disagrees. Depends on the destination. All right. Well, most of us would hold out for our favorite restaurant. Why? Because it's so much better, right? Because mediocre won't do. You don't want the second best. You want the best, and no restaurant has better food than your favorite restaurant. right? In case you're wondering, my favorite restaurant is either Cane's or Popeyes. Kind of depends if I want a spicy chicken sandwich or some of that Cane's sauce. All right. All right, so we're in the series called The Matrix, right? Does anyone know what the theme is for this series? Cody, what's the theme? No, the theme. The theme is wisdom. Come on, man, this is your series. Yeah, so we're talking about wisdom, right? And wisdom is a lot like going to your favorite restaurant, right? You have to be intentional, and you sometimes have to go out of your way to get to your favorite restaurant, right? And life is full of choices. You guys make, how many choices do you guys think you make in a day? Thousands? Is that what I heard? You're probably right. I didn't actually look up the number. Yeah, so the point is we make a lot of choices throughout our days, right? And there's wise choices and there's foolish choices to each of them, right? Red pill, blue pill, wise choice or foolish choice, right? Things like, what kind of music are you going to listen to? You going to listen to God-honoring music, or are you going to listen to music that doesn't honor God? All right, what kind of movies are you going to go watch? I think you all know what movies honor God and which ones don't, right? How are you going to treat the kid who's eating lunch by himself? Are you going to go join him and be his friend, or are you going to go join your friends and make fun of him, right? Are you going to cheat on your math test or your English test, history test, or whatever test you have, or are you going to be honorable and not cheat? Are you going to lie to your parents about where you're going or what you're doing or who you're doing it with, or are you going to be wise and just be honest with your parents? You see, your life is full of choices, and there's wise and foolish choices to all of them. And some of these choices, they may not be big life-changing choices like, are you going to go to college? And if so, where are you going to go and what are you going to study? Or am I going to go join the military? And if so, what branch? Or am I going to go straight into the workforce? If so, where? They may not be big choices like that, but we have wise and foolish choices that we face every single day. All right? And these little choices will start to add up, right? They'll start to define who you are. People will see who you are based on what kind of choices you are making, right? Are you someone who cares about others and represents Christ every day? Or are you someone who wants to fit in with their friends and leave Jesus for Sundays? All right, and making wise choices isn't always easy, but it's always the most rewarding in the long run, right? Because to be honest, sometimes we just want to do something dumb, right? Sometimes we know it's dumb, but we still want to do it. All right, and sometimes we just don't want to have to worry about what's wise or what's foolish. We just want to live our life, and we don't want to have to worry about what the wise choice is. All right, and we're going to be in Proverbs chapter 9 tonight, if you want to turn there. And we're going to read in this passage how even though making the wise choice sometimes is hard, it is always going to be the most rewarding. All right, this is a longer passage tonight, guys. We're doing the entire chapter of Proverbs 9, so it is going to be a little bit longer one. I'm just going to read through the whole thing, so you just stick with me. All right, Proverbs 9:1. Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn her 7 pillars. She has slaughtered her beasts. She has mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She has set out her young woman to call from the highest places in town. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. To him who lacks sense, she says, come and eat of my bread and drink of the wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways and live and walk in the way of insight. Whoever corrects a scoffer gets himself abuse, and he who reproves a wicked man incurs injury. Do not reprove a scoffer, or he will hate you. Do not reprove a wise man, and he will love you. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be still wiser. Teach a righteous man, and he will increase in learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight. For by me your days will be multiplied, and years will be added to your life. If you are wise for yourself. If you scoff, you alone will bear it. Verse 13, the woman folly is loud. She is seductive and knows nothing. She sits at the door of her house. She takes a seat on the highest places of town, calling those who pass by who are going straight on their way. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here, And to him who lacks sense, she says, stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he does not know that the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of Sheol. All right, I know that was a longer passage, and you guys are a little confused about what this all means right now, and that's okay. We're going to start digging through it, right? And so in this chapter, there's two major parts, right? There's Lady Wisdom, which is the first 12 verses, and then there's Lady Folly, which is 13 through 18. Right, so we have our two major sections. And within each major section, we have two things that we're going to dig into tonight. We have the food that's being eaten and how the guests are being invited in. Right, so if we look at Lady Wisdom, the first part, their food is great. Right, they have fresh meat, fresh wine, fresh bread. This is like 5-star meals back in this day. Like, you can't get better food than what you're getting right now in this time. Right, whereas Lady Foley, she's got water that is stolen and bread that's being eaten in secret. I mean, why would you eat bread in secret unless it's old, stale, and moldy, right? So it's much, much worse than this good food, right? So you might be asking yourselves, well, why would anyone pick this gross food over this fresh meal that we have, right? Why would anyone pick this old, stale bread and stolen water over fresh meat? And you're telling me that the wise choice is also the better choice? Like, making wise choices doesn't seem so hard, right? So why would anyone not pick it? Well, the answer comes with how the guests are invited in, right? Both Lady Wisdom and Lady Foley say, whoever is simple, let them turn in here. See, they're advertising their food the same way, except Lady Foley is calling her food sweet and pleasant. Right? And Lady Wisdom is saying talking about having to walk in insight. This sounds a lot harder than sweet and pleasant. Right? And Lady Foley, she sits outside of the travel road. So her guests, they're on their way. They can just stop off here, get a sweet and pleasant meal, and keep going on their way. Whereas with Lady Wisdom, she's sending her servants out to go and bring people back. Right? So the travelers now have to go out of their way to be able to walk in insight, is how their food's advertised, right? So when we look at it this way, right, we have two options, and we can go out of our way to walk in insight, or we can stick to our path and get something that is sweet and pleasant right now. And when we look at it this way, the choice isn't so obvious anymore, right? And this is where making wise choices can be hard. However, when we look at the food, we can see how much more rewarding the wise choice was. All right, and when making choices, we don't get to see the consequence of each action and then pick it, right? So in this story, we know that the wise choice is to go walk in insight and go with the lady's servant, but that's because we knew the food is so much better there. In our lives, we don't get to look at the consequence of each action and then pick one. We have to make a choice and then live with that consequence, right? And this is where we need to rely on the Holy Spirit for guidance. He will guide you to the wise choice, all right? And since we don't always know what the wise choice, and since it's not always obvious, we need to rely on Him to be able to show us what the wise choice is, all right? And because, like I said, when you look at the food that is being offered here, making the wise choice is so much more rewarding. All right, and you're never going to regret making the wise choice. So the question becomes, how do we rely on God? If relying on God is how we make wise choices, how do we do that? Well, if you look at verse 10, it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Right, and so the author of Proverbs is King Solomon. His dad, King David, right, he was someone that was called a man after God's own heart. And he was called that because he feared the Lord. Right? But what does it mean to fear the Lord? Right? There's an aspect of respect there, but the main meaning of fearing the Lord is the fear of being far from God. See, when you're close to God, you don't have anything to worry about. In this life, you have nothing to worry about because God's under control of everything. In the next life, you have nothing to worry about because you're close to God, right? But when you're far from God, you got all the stress of this world you had to deal with. And if you're far from God at the end of your life, you have to deal with the judgment for your sin. Right? So you've got a lot to worry about if you're not close to God. Right? And King David, he was called a man after God's own heart because he feared the Lord. right? And if you don't know the life of King David, a quick summary of it is King David was called a man after God's own heart and then had a big oops, right? He got another man's wife pregnant, committed adultery, right? And then sent her husband to the front line of battle where he would be killed so he could marry her and cover up the fact that he committed adultery. Pretty big oops, right? And then you can read in Psalms chapter 51, the prophet Nathan calls King David out on his sin, right? So King David's trying to cover it up, and the prophet Nathan shows up and is like, hold up, you committed adultery and you're trying to cover it up. So he gets called out on his sin. And Psalms 51 is a passage of David's prayer to God after he was called out. And it's a very beautiful psalm where he's asking God for forgiveness, but he doesn't ask God, spare my kingdom. Allow me to keep being king. He doesn't ask God to continue being king or to spare his kingdom. He doesn't ask God, oh God, spare my reputation, because everyone thinks I'm a man after your own heart, and if they see this, they might not think that anymore. He doesn't ask God to spare his reputation. He doesn't even ask God for his life, right? Because the wages of sin is death. He doesn't even ask God to spare his life. He asks God, please don't take your spirit from me. Please do not be far from me. Like how many of us have asked God, please don't take your spirit away from me after we sin? I mean, I know I've never said that prayer, but King David was so close to God that he feared being far from God, that when he sinned, he said, God, please don't take your spirit away from me, because he knew that was more valuable than his reputation. That was more valuable than his kingdom. That was more valuable than his family or even his own life, right? And that is why wisdom starts with the fear of the Lord. Because when you're wise, you will grow close to God because you know it's the most rewarding thing you could ever do in this life. Is it hard? Yeah, it's the hardest thing you could ever do. In fact, Jesus says that following him is the hardest choice you can make in this life. All right, but time and time again in the Bible, you can read so many stories where following God is always the most rewarding choice. Their lives aren't easy, but they are always rewarded in the end. So how do we rely on God to show us the wise choice? By growing close to him, by growing more familiar with his voice, and learning to lean on his strength to make the wise choice. So can you see how wisdom is like going to your favorite restaurant? Right? It may not be the obvious choice like going to your favorite restaurant, but you have to be intentional, right? You have to be intentional in making the wise choice. And sometimes you have to go out of your way. Sometimes it isn't convenient. Sometimes it's not the nicest option. But we have to be intentional in making the wise choice. All right, so you're gonna leave here tonight, right? You have a full week of school this week. Sorry, no Labor Day. I'm sure you guys are all super excited about that, right? But you got a full week of school, and you have to make all kinds of choices throughout this week. And they may not be life-changing choices, right? But things as simple as what kind of music you're listening to, you can make the wise choice there, or you could make the foolish choice. So the question becomes, are you going to seek counsel from God and lean in his understanding and lean in his strength to make the wise choice? Or are you going to live for the short-term reward and seek out what is sweet and pleasurable? It's a red pill, blue pill choice, and it's up to you what you're going to make. But I challenge you as you leave tonight and start your next week, seek out God's counsel. All right, seek out God's wisdom. Seek out his will, because it'll be more rewarding than any other choice that you can make. All right, I'm going to pray, and then we're going to break out for small groups. All right, so dear God, thank you for this opportunity that we've had to come and learn a little bit more about you, God, and learn a little bit about why making wise choices is so rewarding. God, I pray that you would just fill everyone here with the urge to make wise choices and to seek out your counsel and seek out your will and grow close to you, God. I pray that as we start out this week, our intentions and our focus would be on getting close to you and learning your will for our lives, rather than focusing on what is sweet and pleasurable for our own lives right now. God, I pray that you bless these students as they go throughout their week. Pray that we keep them safe, and that we continue to seek and glorify you. Pray this in your name. Amen.